or assistance financially as well. We are then able to do our own independent studies, and Caroline Marks is the go-to, the gel that puts all these presentations together, also looking at the legalities which are trending at the moment. Caroline Marks.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the PSC. We are a non-profit focused on advocacy. We are a non-profit focused on advocacy and activism around the damages of sewage pollution, and our aim is to protect our constitutional right to a clean and healthy environment. We are non-political. Our role is to share information and to engage with all interested parties, irrespective of political affiliations. So Rethink the State was born out of the fight to address the pollution in Milnerton Lagoon. I became an accidental activist in 2013 when I noticed that the lifesavers who swam the mouth of the lagoon became ill, whereas when they swam further up the beach, they did not. And I discovered that the water quality had been worsened steadily for over 10 years, with E. coli levels unsafe for human contact. Years of meetings followed. By 2017, I was meeting with the deputy mayor, but things did not improve. By 2019, things reached a crisis point with a foul stench hanging over the whole of the Milnerton area. And in desperation, I made a complaint with the Green Scorpions, the Western Cape Department of Environment, and I must say they did a very thorough investigation. Pre-directives and directives followed. However, by 2020, the entire ecosystem totally collapsed over a period of a few days. All the fish, all the crabs, all the salmon prawns that the community had relied on for hundreds of years disappeared. A foul stench hung over the area on most days. The cause of this pollution was quite clear. It was the Potsdam wastewater plant, which wasn't treating the effluent to safe standards. There was also regular overflows of raw sewage from inadequate sewage infrastructure, which had not been updated to keep up with the expansion in the area. And then, of course, a common problem. There was heavily polluted runoff from informal housing areas. To date, this ecosystem has not recovered. As I stand, I must say, when Mayor Hugh Lewis came into office, he thankfully made inland water quality a narrow priority, which means it is now really carefully tracked. And I get to see that tracking because I was co-opted onto the City Section Anti-Wetlands Committee, a move that I think was very unpopular with a lot of city officials. But even so, as I stand here now, when I go home, there will be a foul smell in my home, which is right on the banks of the lagoon. This has reoccurred again in the last 2 weeks. For the last 2 months, I have been pleading as to what is the causes of the high E. coli counts in the lagoon again. Now, when you discharge effluent from a wastewater plant, the E. coli count should be less than 1,000. The readings of the lagoon have been over a million. And that's the wooden bridge. And that's despite the sea coming in and flashing it away. So these problems are not easily fixed. I have asked what is going to be done when the weather warms up and the smell gets worse, and I have not received any answers. And I'm flagging this because when an ecosystem collapses, it is not easy to fix. The long-term plans are to fix the infrastructure, they're all in place. There's also a plan to dredge the lagoon, cost probably about 90 million, because they need to remove about a meter and a half of toxic sludge which is built up because of this pollution over the last 20 years. But why is this relevant to the marine outfalls? The Milnerton Lagoon is both an estuary and a nature reserve. So the city's environmental department, specifically the coastal management team, is responsible for its protection. The national government department responsible for making sure the city protects it is the Department of Forests, Fisheries and the Environment. It is the same department that issues the coastal discharge permits, which are now the discharge of raw sewage into marine protected areas. And these are basically just underwater nature reserves. Despite the Integrated Coastal Management Act stating that dumping into a marine protected area is simply not allowed. So clearly in our case, both of these government departments, the city and the national department, completely failed to prevent the worsening and eventual catastrophic pollution of the Moreton Lagoon over a period of more than 10 years, despite many promises. It became very clear in our fight to protect the Moreton Lagoon that we cannot rely only on politicians, officials, or even government enforcement agencies to protect our environment. It needs informed, active citizens to question and to hold them to account. Now the good news is that Mayhill Lewis has made all the water testing results now publicly available, and that's actually a huge difference. 5 years ago, when I wanted those results, I had to pay a fee, submit a pilot application, wait for 2 months, then I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so even if I got the results, I couldn't tell without them. So that's huge progress. The city has also just published its inland water quality report. Basically, it has aired its dirty water. It is quite damning, but again, it is a move in the right direction to ensure accountability so that we as a public are kept informed. So, when the coastal discharge permits for Greenhead and Camps Bay were finally issued after about 6 or 7 years in 2023, in spite of all the many objections that Tim talks about, they were immediately appealed. And thank you for MSRI and for Action SA for helping us with this, because we didn't have a legal team to scramble to get an appeal ready within 10 days. And Minister Creasy, recognizing that public participation was outdated and inadequate, upheld our appeals and ordered the city to allow further public participation on both these licenses, and actually also on the 2019 Hout Bay license, because nobody was informed when that license was issued, so nobody appealed. This resulted in over 2,000 objections submitted by the public, and I must thank all of those involved, because this is where democracy comes in. We do have a say in how we are governed if we use it. We are still waiting for the decision, the final decision on that appeal. Many of these objections were based on lived experiences like sharks and cleaves, where people swim or paddle and they observe poor water quality. And some were based on the city not following its own the recommendations in its own report. These include considering additional health warnings and information in the vicinity of the marine outfalls with respect to surfing, to canoeing, to open water swimming and diving. Currently, there are no signs warning a swimmer of the area where microbial counts are possibly dangerously high. And my daughter is an open water swimmer. She swam to Robben Island swim twice. She frequently trains in Camps Bay and Clifton. And when I asked her and her friends, are they aware of the sewage outfall, they did not know about it. And yet, there is an area in the middle of Camps Bay. Imagine a circle half a kilometre wide, where the city admits that the microbial counts could possibly be unsafe. And while we often focus on E. coli and enterococci, those bacteria often die off after a few days, depending on the weather and temperature. But some disease-causing organisms do not die off so quickly. If you have a little cholera, for instance, that's been proven to survive in seawater for up to a year. So even if your bacterial counts are reduced and low, that doesn't mean that there isn't no disease-causing organisms present. You have to stop them getting there in the first place. The also states that these outfalls are counter to marine conservation objectives embedded in the intention of marine protected areas. Also, that it's not the responsibility of the scientists to decide what constitutes human health risks, and this, under uncertainties, the actual human health risk. I have asked which medical doctor who is expert in assessing public health risk, like Dr. Joe, was involved in the decision making, but I can confirm that engineers and ecologists made the decision. I can't confirm any medical person was involved. And then again, there's statements like John referred to, scientists are of the opinion there is no immediate ecological disaster is imminent. It's hardly reassuring. Other claims that marine outfalls are acceptable worldwide need to be examined, given that the city's own reports state that outfalls in Australia all have at least secondary treatment, with all new outfalls to have required to have tertiary treatment. So in 2023, when investigations showed that the city had not been compliant with a number of the 2019 Half Bay permit conditions, a criminal complaint was laid by Action SA. And Action SA actually had to again pile this information, which wasn't available to the public. The non-compliances included the failure by the city to submit a treatment improvement plan, and the failure to establish a public permit advisory forum, apart from discharging more than was permitted in the licenses. In this case, it's still pending. Recently, possibly because there was no way for the city to reduce the outfalls in the short term and become compliant with the permit, the Minister, George, the Minister of Environment, lifted the volume restrictions on the permits until the appeal is finalized. Well, that may take years. So Grounder published an article stating city may discharge unlimited quantities of sewage. I commented on the article. There was immediate pushback. I was told my statement on Business Day is factually incorrect. The city published a rebuttal asking Roundup to withdraw the article on all platforms. I was quite shaken. My comment was based on a written reply in Parliament, and I think that I had previously confirmed. So it was quite unsettling for me as an individual. Thankfully, the following day, Roundup published another article with the headline, Minister confirms the city can discharge unlimited quantities. That doesn't mean the city intends to, it just proves that the risk is there because they are now no longer restricted. And they often justify that the studies show that there is a certain assimilative capacity of the environment. In other words, they can safely absorb a certain amount of sewage, but they seem to have thrown that out the window. So, while the city complains that most of the chemical pollution in its Cape's oceans comes from the land, is land-based, in other words, it's coming up of our rivers, this is partially true because many city wastewater plants, like Potsdam, like Athlone, like Macassar, are discharging very poor quality effluent, which enters the ocean via rivers. Also, polluted spills and runoff of informal areas are another huge problem, which, as Pete said, is just completely not being addressed. While addressing these issues may be more urgent in the short term and have a bigger impact on the ocean pollution than addressing the marine outfalls, the city is still obliged to manage all sewage in a way that is safe for the environment and human health. And while the wastewater plants may not remove as many of the chemicals and pollutants as we would like, it definitely improves things far better than raw sewage or partially treated sewage. Encouragingly, in 2022, the city commissioned a report into the possible alternatives to these marine outfalls, and this was a very important step forward. And as mentioned, they recently announced that tomorrow they will discuss the preferred way forward. However, city processes take years, and until there is a clear plan and a timeline and allocated budget, it may never happen. Even budgeted items can be cancelled, like the recent Urban Livable Waterways program, on which I think about 10 million was spent in investigation and which is now being shelved. And in some cases, these things are delayed. The Potsdam wastewater plant upgrade was delayed for 9 years. So the important thing though is to get these things in the budget and plan for, even if they take years, because if we don't do this in 20 years' time, we'll be having the same conversation. I am also hopeful that Minister George will recognize that he should not permit discharges completely contrary to the aims of a marine protected area, and indeed contrary to the Integrated Coastal Management Act, and will, in the approved permit, set timelines for better treatment of these discharges. So why are we here tonight is because public opinion is powerful. We all have a role in ensuring that our environment is protected. So thank you for coming this evening to listen to our concerns. Every effort counts. Just raising your voices, talking about this, we should become aware of the pollution, the contaminants in our environment, and taking action helps. So thank you.